I've received hundreds of messages from people who are stuck in a situation where they're about to lose their properties because they decided to short-term rent or mid-term rent. And today I'm going to talk to you and break down why it's so important to have exit strategies from day one, which I think every intuitive investor needs to make sure they're doing. So hang out with me today as we're going to dissect what is an exit strategy, why it's important to have one, but most importantly, what are the best exit strategies out today in 2024. All right, so I hear this problem way too often. Somebody buys a short-term rental, they go watch my good friend Rob Abasolo. Shout out to Rob, who is one of these short-term rental, if not the short-term rental expert in this space. Love his videos. They go watch it, they jump right into short-term rentals, and guess what happens? Let's just use Dallas, for instance, New York, even parts of California. All of a sudden, short-term rental regulations hit, boom, you are out. You're no longer allowed to short-term rent anymore. And I think that so many people get stuck in this tunnel vision mindset where they see this opportunity, they see that it's great, and they don't think about any other exit strategies. In fact, when you get to that point, sometimes it is too late. So I'm here to talk to you about why it's so important to plan ahead to avoid these financial pitfalls that are happening right now today in July of 2024. This is something that is happening all over the place, and it sucks when I get these DMs and I can't specifically help somebody. So risk management is part of any investor's portfolio. You have to think about that. In fact, there's actually people out there to this day that's exactly what they do, is they look at portfolios and they think about what risks and what factors are you going to have in place, whether it's stock, bonds, yields, investors. These are things that every intuitive investor needs to make sure that they're paying attention to. And what I mean by that is that what those risk management folks do is they put clear plans in place that if something happens for whatever reason, let's say COVID hits and a black swan event happens, that you have an exit for whatever reason. You have the ability to either get out of your property, to get out of that stock, to get out of that bond, whatever it is. They're putting in place a management system that allows you to have multiple different exit strategies. And I think if you're getting into in the investment world right now, whether it's your first property or your 10th, you absolutely have to be thinking like that. And obviously you're not going to go hire Charles Schwab or somebody to do that. Or maybe you are. And if you are, that's freaking awesome. More power to you. But the whole goal is to make sure that you are allowed to have better decisions during that process and when changes actually truly do happen. Because I think a lot of us today are buying investment properties without the idea of something potentially going wrong. And I can tell you, there's things going wrong all over the place. I mean, interest rates are at I'm not going to say maximum, but they're at a high point and they haven't dipped at all very much. In fact, over the last year at all. Are we going to see them go lower? I don't know. I would love to see that. But as of now, that's just what the circumstance is. So our goal is to make sure that we're avoiding risks, we're managing our risks, and we're making sure that we have a clear-cut plan that if things don't work, we have a way out. One of the other things with managing risks is maximizing profits. This is important too. So it enables you to capitalize on market trends and avoid missed opportunities. I happen to already be in mid-term rentals back in 2020 when COVID hit, and so many short-term rental operators were slammed. In fact, I've seen and know people that lost their entire portfolios, whether they're arbitraging or they had properties on their own, because Airbnb basically shut down along with the world during that whole incident where people weren't allowed to travel. And me, on the other hand, with mid-term rentals, my business thrived. In fact, 2020 was the best year I've ever had with mid-term rentals because I was hosting the digital nomads, because I was hosting travel nurses and things of that nature. And the reason why that happened is because I saw the market opportunity at that specific point. And a lot of us do see those opportunities. In fact, I see them right now, which is why I'm making this video, because I really feel that there's a lot of opportunity for us in this space. And you're not going to be able to capitalize on those potential opportunities if you're focused on one specific type of asset class, like short-term rentals or mid-term rentals. So you definitely have to have a clear vision on multiple different strategies. And I'm going to talk to you about some of those going forward right now. So let's dive into what are actually the common exit strategies. And I know you guys just been talking about short-term rentals. They are one of my favorite opportunities right now in the space. In fact, so many people are getting involved in the short-term rental space. It's grown dramatically since Airbnb started in 2007. The cool thing about short-term rentals is they typically make more money and the income potential of them is freaking awesome. And not only that, but if you're managing your short-term rentals, you have flexibility, which I think is super, super awesome. One of the things that I don't like about short-term rentals is they're vulnerable and there's regulatory changes that happen so much and market fluctuations. And that right there is what I see the most specific incident where people message me and say, Jess, I don't know what to do. I'm in this situation. I can't pay my rent. I can't short-term rent anymore. And now I'm stuck. So that's an exit strategy that I think is important to have. If you have the ability to have short-term rentals in your market, 100% use that. It's one of the best strategies on the planet. Now let's dive into one of my favorites of all, which is the mid-term rentals. And you guys have heard me talking about these for years before they were even cool. And I think they're cool now. I mean, sort of, right? Anyway, midterm rentals are a fantastic exit strategy. And what I love about them is that medium term rentals are typically 1 to 6 months long. You often have travelers that are corporate clients and traveling professionals. And this is one of the greatest ways to hedge against the risk of short-term rental regulations. And I always tell everybody, if you are a short-term rental operator and you do not know midterm rentals, you must diversify your portfolio to understand them, because again, this is a risk management tool. Quick story. I am in Modesto, California, and we have short-term rentals that have been banned in that market. Guess what? My short-term rental portfolio, which is now a midterm rental portfolio, which it's been for a long time, is still thriving because I've always done midterm rentals in that market. I didn't have to pivot last minute. I didn't receive a cease and desist letter and all of a sudden start freaking out because I didn't have an exit strategy. I already had that lined up from day one. I know many people that are operating in my market that were just scared and they didn't know what to do. In fact, they ended up selling properties. They couldn't rent them as a long-term rental because they didn't actually make enough cash flow to cover the mortgage, which we're seeing a lot these days with the 7% interest rate. One of the other things that I love about midterm rentals is the steady income that comes along with them, the less turnovers, the less headaches that I like to say, because you are managing these folks that are typically staying for longer periods of time. They are not needy like they are in the short-term rental industry, where say a light bulb goes off and not in their head, but in the actual house, in the living room or the bathroom or something like that. And you're getting a notification saying, Jess, you have a light bulb coming out. Can you send somebody to fix that? Like, midterm rental guests do not do that kind of thing. In fact, they haven't been like that for me. And I'm knocking on wood right now because I hope that doesn't actually happen. And I'm sure it will to some point, but it's just a different type of client. And they're more likely to go out and actually buy a light bulb and supply it for your house than a traditional Airbnb guest. So I just feel that the midterm rental guests have a lot more credibility as actual guests that are living in the property, because they actually truly are. It's not just a weekend thing. One of the things that is difficult about the midterm rental space, which I would say a con, did I just say com? .com. I would say that one of the most difficult things about the midterm rental space, if you are looking at this as an exit strategy, is actually doing it what I consider the right way. And that is not just listing on Airbnb. That is not just listing on VRBO and waiting for somebody to book. It's being proactive, which takes a lot more energy than just being able to list on Airbnb, where you're actually proactive calling agencies and companies and temporary housing companies and attracting those clients based off of the marketing that you're doing for the properties. I do believe if you want to build a successful career in the midterm space and be around in 10 years, you need to absolutely start thinking like that. In fact, I have a midterm rental class where I teach people how to build a business from their midterm rentals and their portfolios by leveraging other people, but also creating a Rolodex for yourself. So if you want to know more about that, the link's down below and we can definitely talk about it. One of the other exit strategies that I think is super important to think about is renting by the room. And this is why I'm not necessarily super excited about renting by the room. And I mean, like, I'm listing on Craigslist. Let's not talk about Craigslist. I'm listing on Furnish Finder, I'm listing on Airbnb, and I'm renting by the room. The problem with that is if I'm managing that, I now have 3 different rooms that I'm taking care of. If I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, say a travel nurse is leaving tomorrow and I have another travel nurse leaving in a month and another one leaving in say 3 weeks, I am taking care of all 3 of those clients and trying to find a replacement for them constantly, because there's maybe somebody coming in for 1 month, maybe somebody leaving in 2 weeks, just like I mentioned a second ago. And it just requires a lot of activity that comes along from you on your end, which I think is important to do. But also, I'm not really a big fan of actively making sure to go out and find these clients and making sure that I'm filling the room. So renting by the room is another option, that if you are unable to pay your mortgage because short-term rentals have landed in your market or restrictions have landed, that's a great way to be able to bring income. In fact, I've watched people build successful businesses that were in the short-term rental industry that did get hammered by regulations, and they pivoted to renting by the room, and they charged a higher premium for, say, a master bedroom that had a bathroom in it and individual rooms that were in the property. And that's a great way to do it. But again, it's management intensive, and I do believe that it can be cumbersome to some of those that are out there. Okay, this part and this company, they're called Padsplit, and I believe they are the future when it comes to exit strategies. In fact, I think it's one of the best exit strategies that are out right now that not many people know about. And Padsplit's been a company that's been around for a couple years. In fact, I have properties that I'm converting to Padsplit, and I believe it's a great exit strategy, one that you've probably never heard of. And I'm glad you're here because I'm going to talk about it right now. One of the cool things about Padsplit is it's basically a co-living platform. Well, you convert single family homes into affordable sharing living spaces. So let's just give this an example. I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that's about 1,600 square feet. I have a secondary dining room, like the one I'm in right now is actually a dining room that I converted into a studio. But what I would actually do is turn this into 2 bedrooms. So I would now have a 5-bedroom property, and each room would be rented out to a specific person. And one of the cool things that I love about this model is that not only am I able to 2x income in most cities, but I'm able to actually help people with affordable housing issues. And right now, all over the US, especially here in California, there is just absolutely no affordable housing. So one of the cool things about Padsplit is they actually actually are an option for people that are looking to find some stability in their life by being able to get into a room with affordable housing. And the cool thing about Padsplit is they're actually able to manage that for you, where you don't have to worry about what clients am I going to get in, what needs to happen. Padsplit's actually the ones that are actually gathering that information. You obviously get to look at if that's a tenant that you want to have, and you get 24 hours to make a decision on them. But they're the ones that are actually supplying you with the clients and managing the day-to-day sort of stuff with the property, which I think is pretty cool. And one of the other cool things about Padsplit right now is they have a 97% collection rate. Because I know that you're probably thinking, like, if I have somebody that's renting my room for $1,000 a month, are they actually going to pay on time? Well, they have a 97% collection rate, which I think is pretty freaking awesome. I don't even know across the board in the long-term rental space if that's even pretty accurate. I don't think so. What I love about this is increasing property owners' returns, and again, most importantly, is actually reducing the vacancy risks, which I think is such an important piece of the puzzle. And I've talked to several people all over the US that actually have pad splits, and they're making more money than they were in the short-term rental industry. In fact, I just talked to somebody that has about 8 pad splits in Arizona yesterday, and her husband are making over $50,000 a month with 8 properties. I'm sorry. They're making over $50,000 a month with 8 properties, and that is gross income, of course. I still think it's pretty awesome that they're able to build a significant business by not really managing everything on their own. They're actually able to have Padsplit do a lot of that stuff for them. One other thing on Padsplit is they have over 25,000 members that have stayed at the property and have saved taxpayers over $5.5 billion by providing cost-effective housing solutions, which I think is pretty freaking cool. So I think it's one of the best, most slept on strategies. And I think, again, you're going to see a lot more from Padsplit in the future. I'm actually going to leave a link down below, so you want to check them out. I would encourage you to. All right, guys, so there it is. My favorite exit strategies, obviously mid-term rentals, and I do love the idea of Padsplit. I think it's one of the greatest inventions. In fact, Mark Cuban actually invested in Padsplit himself, which I think is pretty freaking cool. But I want to make sure that I reinforce the thought process of having exit strategies before you buy property. I know when I first bought my property, I was super just gung-ho on the mid-term rentals, and luckily it's worked for me, but now I'm starting to really find that being an intuitive investor means having more property in different type of asset classes. And I think as I start to mature in this space, I see more of why that's important to do. So I'm encouraging you guys all to have exit strategies that you're thinking about before you're even buying the property, and make sure that you guys are being ahead of the curve, which could be happening in the future, which we don't know what it is, but you at least have an idea of what works and what doesn't work. So inviting you guys to share your thoughts and comments down below. Are you currently in a situation where there's no longer short-term rentals that are on your market and you're stuck in a position like you need to actually pivot and do something else? Or do you have a long-term rental and you're looking for more money? Or are you a mid-term rental operator and you're just not getting any bookings and you got to figure something else out? Love to hear from you. And once again, I appreciate you guys so much. And if you are stuck in a position right now where you're not able to make money, you want to learn how to build a business out of the mid-term rental space, I'm encouraging you, come join me in my mentorship. In fact, I'm going to be working with 10 people. We're opening our program to the next 10 people that are willing to build a successful business. I'm going to leave a link down below for that. And I would love to work with you, work directly with you, help you build your business. I've been doing that now for years and it's super rewarding to me. So I hope you guys enjoyed something from this video, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Make sure to think about those exit strategies.